Hi, welcome to the first edition of the Microwave, brought to you by Sport Talk Feed, joined here by a wonderful set of writers for Sport Talk Feed with the MLB department, joined by Dan Ward, who covers the Philadelphia Phillies, and Jesus Cano covers the Oakland Athletics. We have Justin Zabo, who covers the Cleveland Indians, and Sean O'Leary, who covers the San Francisco Giants, Zach Peterson, who covers the Chicago Cubs, and Matt Hepner, who covers... Who do you cover, Matt?
Red Sox.
The who?
Red Sox.
The Red Sox, the Boston Red Sox. And we're here excited to give you the first ever podcast. We're going to go over some Hall of Fame voting, did our own ballots, and after that, just going to kind of give an off-season recap, see who we thought are the winners and losers so far in the off-season. And guess we should get started, guys.
All right.
All right. Well, I think Zach's the one with the Hall of Fame ballot voting and stuff, so.
Yeah, that's me. So basically what I came up with is to do our own Hall of Fame voting. Since tomorrow or Wednesday at 6 p.m., the Baseball Writers Association of America will be announcing the results of their voting. So I'm like, hey, why not? We can pull this off. We can vote our own Hall of Fame class in to see how we would vote. So tried to get 20 ballots. We ended with 19. Majority of it was from our own department. We had a few, maybe 2 or 3 from outside the department as well. I can just run down the list real fast of the ones who didn't get in, starting with basically guys. I'm not going to reveal the 1 or 2 vote guys, even though McGuire is one who received only 2 votes, which is 10.5%. So basically, players who received 15.8% of our voting was Nomar Garciaparra, Jeff Kent, Billy Wagner, Lee Smith, and Sammy Sosa. The next up would be the 21.1% of our voting, which was Roger Clemens, Tim Raines, and Gary Sheffield. And I'm going to stop at this next one to see if anybody's got any opinions or have any surprises that I've said so far. But at 31.6% of the vote, which was only receiving, he only appeared on 6 ballots, was Mike Mussina.
Oh, wow.
So any names that stand out that kind of shock anybody?
Sheffield.
Mike Mussina,
Yeah.
I thought he would have some more votes.
Yeah, Mussina shocked me too. I thought he'd get a little bit more support, but I mean, there's so many more. I mean, to put it as in sexy names that are up there, that's going to pop out at you first that you're going to want to write down or vote for. He never had a moment. He was always more of a quiet, consistent pitcher.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
But
he's definitely. I think he'll be in there eventually, but probably take a few years for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only his 3rd year on the ballot this year, so I expect him in the baseball writers balloting to be higher than what we had him at. But let me go by the basis. We basically did the voting on the Baseball Writers Association of America voting, which was you voted either a minimum of 1 to a maximum of 10. And a player basically gets voted in if he receives 75% of the vote or appears on 75% or more of the ballots. With that said, the next 2 players I'm going to name off. One kind of breaks my heart. The other one, it's going to break Sean's heart. So 36.8% of the vote, which means they received 7 votes or appeared on 7 ballots, were Edgar Martinez and Barry Bonds.
Both of those actually break my heart because I voted for both of them.
Me too.
I voted Edgar.
Oh, yeah, I love Edgar when I watched him play for the Mariners. And they showed last night on MLB Network, which was great, his numbers compared to David Ortiz, since people are already crowning Ortiz the greatest designated hitter of all time, which is hard to argue with. But his batting average and on-base percentage for his career were amazing for a guy who really didn't make a lot of noise.
I hate that he gets the DH because he's a DH. A lot of people don't consider him a Hall of Famer, which sucks. But
Yeah, I disagree with that. It doesn't matter where you play. As long as you play, put up good numbers, you should
Yeah,
be
if it's
in.
a position in Major League Baseball, then you deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame, no matter, even if
If
that.
if kickers in the NFL can make it to the Hall of Fame, designated hitters in the baseball should make
If
it
a
to the Hall of Fame.
if a punter can make it into the Hall of Fame in the NFL.
What are
Absolutely.
you trying to say about those kickers?
What?
We got one right here.
Nothing. I'm just saying, if you're the best at your position, no matter what sport, you should be recognized for that, and you should be able to get in the Hall of Fame. I mean, if your numbers are worthy enough, and he's arguably the only DH I can think of off the top of my head at any time is Edgar Martinez. He's the first name I think of.
Yeah, and
Martinez
go
bat
back.
12, on base percentage 418, slugging percentage 515, and OPS 933 for his career. Those are pretty stellar numbers, and I think worthy as well.
The only thing that's strange when I look at his numbers is he had one season of 30 or more homers, which was in 2000 when he hit 324 with 37 homers and 145 RBIs. And the thing with Edgar and the DH part about the Hall of Fame voting, it's baseball writers seem to be a lot more, I don't know if it's picky or sticklers to stuff, because the same attitude they have with closers too. It took a guy like Goose Gossage so long to get into the Hall, so yeah. But let's now we talked about Edgar. I'll let Sean, since we're going to get that ammunition out of the way, about Barry Bonds. Bonds was voted on 7 ballots, and he appeared on looking at everybody who voted here that's in here with us. 4, I believe. 4 of us voted for Bonds
That's
that
actually
are
shocking.
That is shocking.
I expected
think
me
so.
to be one of the only people that did.
I was voting Bonds 100%.
Yeah, I voted Bonds too.
I'll vote for Bonds every time.
Yeah,
I like it.
No bias at all. I don't care that he did steroids. There's still a level of talent that goes along with hitting that many home runs. Of course, steroids gave him a small boost, but that just kind of adds to the length of the home runs, not really the amount.
Small boost. He hit 73.
Added 200 points to his career slugging percentage too. So it's. I understand the argument. He was on a Hall of Fame track before
I have the
anything
numbers right
happened.
here. I have the so people think he started roiding up in '98. So his numbers before that were 288 average, 408 on base, 551 slugging, 1,750 hits, 1,904 RBIs, scored 1,244 runs, and walked 1,227 times.
How about those stolen bases as well?
417 and 374 home runs. So
I didn't vote for him just because I thought he'd be a Hall of Famer without the steroids, and that just kind of did it for me. Is because he had to cheat and he never had to cheat, in my opinion.
One thing to talk about steroids with a guy is that the steroids themselves don't make the baseball player great. He still has to go to the gym and utilize what they do, which is build up your muscles. So give Bonds some credit in that he did put in the effort to become a monster, and like Zabo said, he still has to be a good hitter in order to hit home runs. With that being said, I have been on the fence with him forever. I think he deserves to be in the Hall. His name needs to be mentioned. He needs to be in there. But whether or not people are going to vote for him, whether or not a Hall of Fame voters will vote for him, I'm not sure. But 762 and 400 at post steroids, it's still very impressive numbers, and you got to give him credit where credit's due.
and
Yeah,
also for his career, he has the second highest WAR ever, which is 164. So
It's kind of like Lance Armstrong's scenario where everybody was doing it at the time, so why is he the most one punished
Yeah.
for it?
It's almost the problem I have is the denial of it with Hillman Clemens. That's my issue, and that the fact with Bonds, it makes him seem even more guilty when Greg Anderson was willing to go to prison on multiple occasions instead of just testifying. I'd been fine if Anderson would have took a stand and lied instead of going to prison, just made it look worse. I'd be fine with Bonds going to the Hall of Fame if he, I believe he did 100% that he did something. If he just admitted, I'd be fine with him going in because it's hard to argue at the end of the day with 7 MVP awards. I'll still consider Hank Aaron, to me, in my heart, as the home run king, but still, 762 home runs is very impressive, no matter what he was on. Like everybody else, as some of you guys said, that you have to play the game. You have to know how to hit a baseball. And I didn't vote for him because I just want him to just come clean, honestly.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you not voting for him will make him do that, Zach.
Absolutely. That's my hope. I'll tweet my ballot out afterwards, Adam.
Where do you guys stand on Clemens then, talking about steroids? Who voted for him? I did.
I didn't.
Zach, did Clemens make any ballots?
Clemens, for people that we have here in the room right now, we have a few. Sorry, my paper just fell to the floor. With Clemens, I think there's only a few. He only was voted for by on 4 ballots. And with Clemens, what the issue is velocity. You could tell if you look at the numbers and everything when he started doing stuff because his velocity was starting to drop somewhere in I think it was like early 90s, and all of a sudden it came right back. And you usually don't see that with guys who are starting to hit their 30s. I know that's it might be a lame reason to point out, but I mean he could have recreated himself, but Clemens he was more unlikable than what Bonds is. So I think
that's the main reason that I think it was just that he was so unlikable that people just don't want to vote for him.
Yeah,
Clemens. Bonds at least you can sort of root for in a way, but with Clemens most people just cannot stand the man.
With what Zach said about Bonds not coming clean and all the controversy, Clemens has been such an annoying story to have to stay up to date on for years and years, him going to court, him going to trial, that it's just exhausting that people don't want to vote for him. And, yeah, his velocity going from way down to way up again, it's harder for me personally to vote in a pitcher with steroids who has a lot of success because you can see it more and it's not quite as necessary, I guess, as for a hitter, where a hitter who takes steroids doesn't necessarily make him great. Not saying steroids make a pitcher great, but I think he has more of an advantage on the mound than the person at the plate.
I have a question. I didn't vote for Roger Clemens, but do you guys think that part of the reason he may have done that is because he knew so many hitters were doing it and he thought he had to keep his game level with them? I mean, so many hitters were doing it at the time that pitchers were getting. I mean, they were just getting shelled every night, and the great pitchers couldn't even get those guys out anymore. So I don't know. Maybe he just thought that to stay on an even playing field, he had to take them as well.
Well, with Clemens, it's a split from '93, and it could be playing in Fenway, but he pitched in Fenway for so long. Starting around 92 or 93 is where his ERA started to balloon, his strikeouts per 9 innings started to drop, and his walks began to increase. And then as they start to drop, it takes a violent spike upwards again, looking at his strikeouts per 9, and it all seems to start when he made the move to Toronto. So I don't know if those 2 years in Toronto, if that's when he decided, watching McGuire and Sosa starting to slap balls all over the place, started to basically, like you said, other hitters are juicing, so why not?
Yeah, well, anybody can make a logical reason for themselves. I'm not giving Clemens that, because then talk to me about Mike Mussina, talk to me about Greg Maddux, talk to me about all the other pitchers that had amazing careers during the steroid era.
Okay, so I'm going to name off one more player who was voted. This is the last player who didn't finish at 50% or above. He appeared on 8 ballots for 42.1%, and that is Jim Edmonds.
Wow.
He'll get there eventually. It's only the first time.
Not his first time, but he'll get there.
I can admit I did not vote for Jim Edmonds.
Because he's a Cardinal?
That see, I knew that was gonna come up. And no, I don't know what it was about Edmonds. I mean,
He's
good
arguably-
average. His career batting average is around the same as Griffey's. Just people bring up the Gold Gloves, but and just a lot of his stuff was a lot. I mean, I felt like he might have won a lot of his Gold Gloves off of a lot of highlight reel catches that he made, and they were amazing. I mean, he's one of the greatest defensive center fielders to ever play the game, but I just feel like it was just that's how it's built off of because there's really nothing else that ever stood out with me with Edmonds. This is before going to St. Louis.
I voted Edmonds. I thought he deserved it just based on his defense and his offense wasn't atrocious by no means. I mean, he like you said, he had a batting average near 300, just like Ken Griffey. He's arguably one of the top 5 best defensive center fielders of all time, and I thought he deserved it. Didn't necessarily think he'd get in on the first ballot, but he'll be there eventually.
Yeah.
Torrey Hunter is heading in the same direction as Edmonds was.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so we have basically now the top 5 who finish above 50%. So the next player, this one was the one I was really hoping, and I pray Wednesday night when the voting comes out that he gets in, but that's Jeff Bagwell at 52.6%. He appeared on 10 of the 19 ballots.
Kind of shocked by that. I thought Bagwell would be a little higher. I thought he would get in. I don't really see an argument against him not being in the Hall of Fame.
I think eventually. I don't think it'll be first ballot for him.
Yeah,
Bagwell is one of those guys who baseball players will vote him in. But because we did a ballot for people outside of the MLB department as well, I think he's not a sexy name, if you want to use that phrase. He's more of a name that baseball players know, but some of the people outside of the department may have just glossed over him.
And I think what hurt Bagwell, his name didn't pop up so much during that time is there were so many other great first basemen in Major League Baseball in the 90s, but he did so much with the bat playing in the god-awful Astrodome for so long. I think he's the greatest Houston Astro of all time. Not named Nolan Ryan, but Nolan Ryan is Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan's the greatest baseball player for like 3 different teams. So.
Yeah.
Can we count him for the Mets for that 1 year he was with them?
I'd argue Craig Biggio or even Lance Berkman.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, this will be his 6th year on the ballot, so he's still got a few more. And I think with Griffey being the only really massive name on it this year, I think he makes some leadway. But maybe if he would have hit 500, maybe if he would have reached 500 home runs and not had the arthritic condition with his shoulder, if he would have been able to extend his career, we probably would be talking. He probably would have been first ballot then.
Injuries suck.
Yep. So, the guy who finished 4th in the voting at 63.2% of the votes, he appeared on 12 ballots. Someone that's going to be near and dear to Dan and Matt's heart, and that is Curt Schilling.
What? I thought he was going to go in for sure.
No bloody,
Here.
no,
Man.
Does anybody follow him
no
on
bloody sock in the Hall of Fame.
He's a psycho on Twitter. He's
He's crazy on
I
Twitter.
honestly can't think of World Series without thinking Curt Schilling,
Yeah.
especially in the time that I've been alive. It's just, you see Curt Schilling's name a lot, and that's something that always sticks out to me.
That
Do you
series,
think he's
What was that? I didn't catch that.
Eric or Eric?
Oh, go ahead, man.
Okay. That run in 2004 was probably the most memorable baseball moment I've had in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It was fantastic. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, staying up until 1 a.m. when I was like 10 years old watching those games. Fantastic.
In 2001, too, even going back to the Diamondbacks, like it was just so fun when him and Randy Johnson became the
Yeah,
best two-headed monster ever. And it's like, who's going to be better the next game? They were that good.
right.
Him and Randy Johnson also killed that Yankees dynasty as well in 2001, which was great for majority of baseball as well.
No, Josh Beckett ruined that Yankees dynasty.
Well, Randy
Thank you very
Johnson also
much.
killed a bird, so there's that too.
All right, Schilling will be in. Surprised that it's his 4th year, but
Yeah.
he'll be in.
He'll
He,
get in.
I mean, 3,000 strikeouts.
I'll always say that Josh Beckett ruined that Yankees dynasty.
That was a fun
Here's an interesting fact about Schilling and Bagwell. They were both originally drafted by the Boston Red Sox, which is something that they used to always bring up when the Red Sox hadn't won a title. So it's not as like damning as it is now as it was then. But it's just interesting when I was looking up all this stuff that Schilling and Bagwell were both originally drafted by Boston.
You know, it's another fun stat. Kurt Schilling, according to BaseballReference.com, has 1 stolen base as a pitcher.
What?
In itself.
And that's why he should be in. No.
So do you guys think that Schilling's maybe a little marred by having to pitch alongside Randy Johnson? People they think of Randy Johnson and not really Kurt Schilling. I know he had the great year with the Red Sox, helping him win the World Series, but a lot of people think of Manny Ramirez, Pedro Martinez in that World Series, but I don't know. I think maybe Randy Johnson kind of held him back and maybe not have his name as big as it should be.
I would agree with that. Because he's never been, like, at his best, he never was that guy for the team. And nobody else.
Yeah,
Other than
he got to pitch with Randy Johnson and Pedro Martinez and never had to be that top ace, really. So
I don't think that's true when Philly fans love Kurt Schilling. So
it's true. People don't
I think
remember. People don't remember.
with
him
Schilling,
playing Philly, though.
With Schilling, he pitched on a few. Other than the Phillies teams that did well in the early '90s, he pitched on some bad teams. So, toward the end of the '90s, until he got traded to Arizona. So, I mean, that might be why. Because Randy Johnson, when you bring him up, he was also the ace for Seattle, who was, always in the national spotlight. If it wasn't for Randy Johnson, it was for King Griffey Jr. Schilling, I think it just hurt not having the attention early on in his career. But, the man, 3rd all-time for most 300 strikeout seasons. So, he was almost a poster child of consistency. So, it's not the greatest. He wasn't once again, to bring that word up, sexiest player out there. But I think he's Hall of Fame worthy. I voted for him.
I voted for him.
Yep.
Me too.
Okay, so now we're in our top 3. I will say 2 players got in. We all can assume who one is. So the third player, the third player next finished 3rd with 68.4% of the ballots. He appeared on 13 of the 19 ballots. He is the first man to achieve 600 saves. He's 2nd all-time career saves. Trevor Hoffman got 68.4% of the vote.
Trevor Hoffman's getting in this Wednesday.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to look over the list of where he was left off on the ballots from people. I'm not going to name names just because some people didn't. I don't want to offend anybody if I expose your ballot and we sit there and rip them here on the air. But the people who left them off the ballot are all in this department, I believe.
Whoa.
What?
That's shocking. Then we thought.
Wow.
It's very shocking.
Drew, because of his time with the Brewers.
He it was almost automatic anytime he came in the game.
Oh.
If they had the lead, It was pretty much over. I mean, he was Mariano Rivera before Mariano Rivera, so I'm kind of shocked that he's not in.
Yeah, scrolling through the list, I put him down, I think, second or third for the guys I was injured. So it's all right, though. He didn't make it in our ballot. He'll make it in the real one. I have confidence in that.
What worries me about Hoffman is, to bring up an earlier point, what's usually the attitude of the baseball writers' attitude toward closers. They almost see him as save hasn't always been a recognized stat, but it's the fact that he was, to me, he is the greatest closer to ever pitch in the National League and the second greatest closer of all time. He ranks top 3 in WAR among closers, along with Goose Gossage and Mariano Rivera. I can tell you a quick story about Trevor Hoffman. The first time I ever went to Wrigley Field to see the Cubs play was in 2006. Cubs were up 3-1. A certain player hit a 3-run homer, and I was excited even though we were going to lose because I got to see Trevor Hoffman pitch. And being able to see him close up, it was just, even at that age, he was amazing to watch. Just how methodical he was on the mound and just how he knew how to work every batter he faced.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
That changeup was
Filthy.
yeah.
That changeup was the Mariano Rivera cutter.
You knew it was coming, but you just couldn't do anything with it.
Can hit it.
Nope.
So as we now go to the 2 players that got in, the guy who hit that 3-run homer against the Cubs at that game I was at is a man who received 78.9% of the votes on the ballot. That means he appeared on 15 ballots, and that is Mike Piazza, who I think is the greatest offensive catcher of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that.
He's another guy that I'm surprised he's in his 4th year on the ballot.
I didn't vote for him.
I did.
Why?
I don't know. I never thought that. I don't know. He was the great. I don't know. I just never thought that Piazza should be in, and not yet anyway. I kind of thought some other guys should get in over him.
His defense did leave a lot left to be desired.
His arm.
I will admit that, but I mean, the man, he went, I think, was it 9 consecutive seasons of a batting average at or above 300, finished with 427 career home runs. That's leads all catchers. 10 consecutive seasons winning the Silver Slugger. So I mean, it is mostly offensive. Because I mean, he's not a Yadier Molina behind the plate when he was there.
Hey, they didn't need him to be the Yadier Molina, though. They needed him to be what he was, and that's why he was so great to me.
Yeah. When I looked at his name, it just didn't pop out to me that he should have been a Hall of Famer. I don't know why.
Yeah, me either. I don't know. Maybe if I redid it, maybe he'd get a second look, but I just never thought that while his offense was so great, his defense, like you said, was something to be desired, and I don't know. I feel like if we're not going to let designated hitters in, he was pretty much that.
Yeah. For some reason, I tried to keep my ballot to five players, and when I went through it, there were 5 guys that I felt were more important to get in than he was. So that's why I think I left him out.
I think if you're deserving to get in, you're deserving to get in. It doesn't matter how early or what year on the ballot. If you're good enough, you're good enough, and Piazza is good enough.
No, I
you have to
had
compare
10 other
it, though.
players I thought over him, and I couldn't put him on my ballot.
You had 2 other players ahead of him, though?
Yep.
I think what's hurt him so far in voting is he's somewhat related to possible PED era, but last year I think he missed the Hall by not a lot of votes. I mean, he was so close, and I think he'll get in this year, purely on offense alone. And I mean, but he also, the leadership that he brought. I mean, once he became a member of the Mets, he helped lead that team to its first World Series since '86 when they had the Subway Series, which by the way, side note, Subway Series is the worst World Series I've ever seen in my lifetime. So
Worse than the Bay World Series?
the Giants, or you talking about Giants Athletics, or
Yeah.
I think I was a little bit still a little bit too young to remember that one.
That was before I think it was before I was even born. So.
So we've now it's just time to come to the inevitable. It wasn't if he's going to get in, which tomorrow, same way, if he's going to get in, it's how many votes he's going to get. We did not have a single person leave him off their ballot.
Good.
Ken Griffey Jr. is the greatest player I've seen in my lifetime. Maybe it's a little bit biased because I'm left-handed too, just like Griffey, or his birthday's the day after mine. But with Griffey, it's just what could have been. I mean, just all the injuries he had, and look at the numbers that he put up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy was fantastic. That was my favorite player to ever watch growing up. Made spectacular plays in the outfield. He did everything with the bat. He won home run derbies. He won All-Star Game MVPs. One thing he never did was get that World Series title, but I don't think that matters as much in baseball because it's such a team sport. But Ken Griffey was, I'm going to go ahead and say it, he's the greatest player of all time, and I'm saying that based on what he would have done if he was healthy. I mean, 600, nearly 650 home runs, and he was hurt for, I think, a combined 3 seasons. If you combine all his games missed, that's remarkable.
And Griffey to think about is that everything that he did and everything that he was, he kind of, in a way, made the game of baseball cool to us growing up. Like, I remember those home run derbies where we just turned the cap backwards and he just had a blast. Like, he made the game, seem like a very cool sport. He was like transcending in a way.
Yeah, he's had the sweetest swing ever.
That video that Zach sent us of the loop swing of his.
Yeah, Deadspin with that loop video is just God. It's just watching that. It's just, I remember when I was playing baseball as a kid, I tried my hardest to emulate that swing and got yelled at a lot by all the different coaches I had growing up. And also the thing is, when he left Seattle, he went to Cincinnati, who at the time wasn't a great team. He wanted to go to Cincinnati. Not many players do this. He wanted to go home. He wanted to go home to be close to his family. I mean, he could have stayed with Seattle. Imagine Griffey on that 2001 Mariners team that won 116 games. He was a player that we won't see again. I don't think we'll ever see again. I mean, the closest I think will come maybe is Mike Trout. But even then, when you look at Trout, you don't always smile and know that this guy loves the game the way Griffey did.
Yeah. Hey, Justin, what's up with guys wanting to return to Ohio?
We're a swing state.
All right.
That's the best he's got.
I'll take it.
Honestly, I really don't know. All of our teams suck. Well, except for the Bengals, obviously, who probably are going to lose first round to the Steelers. But hey, Cavs are about to win out.
Lose in the finals again?
No, they're in the finals.
That's the other thing about Griffey. And now we're going to bring up Cleveland. I hated the Indians growing up in the 90s because the Cubs sucked during this time. I mean, I remember that in the 90s growing up. And Griffey and those Mariners teams going, and then to get bounced a few times by the Indians, I realize now that Cleveland, the Indians, it was a great story too, but God, it pissed me off so much when the Indians would bounce the Mariners out of the playoffs.
Those Indians teams were fantastic, though. Kenny Lofton, Manny Ramirez, just to name a couple guys.
So, with the any names that we didn't bring up in this that kind of shocked people, I'm going to bring up one name, and Eric is the only other person that voted for this guy. Is the crime dog, Fred McGriff. Only getting 2 votes, appearing on 2 ballots, makes me kind of sad.
I thought he should be in.
He should be in for nickname alone.
Right?
Hey, Zach, how many did Billy Wagner get?
Billy Wagner appeared on 3 ballots. He got 15.8% of the vote. Because I remember when I know Eric brought up the fact that he voted for somebody that probably nobody else voted with. He was right, and I remember you said you probably had a pitcher you voted for that nobody else voted for.
Yeah.
But Drew Diaz voted for Wagner, and who else voted for Billy Wagner? I just saw him pop up just a minute ago. But I mean, even then, Wagner, I don't know, I can't remember much. It was Peter voted for Wagner. Was it just his career was derailed by injuries, or?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason why I didn't vote him. Well, that and I mean, he was a closer, so it's hard to get in. But he had a lot of injuries, but he was really good when he was healthy and on.
I think he had a career 2.38 ERA and 400 plus saves. So
Yeah.
Yeah, Wagner has the numbers to get in eventually, if not this year. But being a Phillies fan in 2005 and 2006, going against the Houston Astros, he just blew so many saves, and he could never pick anybody off. If anybody got on first, they stole second and third. It was so frustrating to watch. He was a great closer, and he had one of the sickest fastballs of the time. But if I was a Hall of Fame voter, I might be a little biased against Billy Wagner.
Yeah, he's no Wade Davis.
Then once, going back to Fred McGriff, 493 career home runs. Just so close to 500, but now 500 home runs really doesn't mean a lot since the PED era. So, nobody, any other names that pop up that anybody, like a Mike Sweeney perhaps, receiving 5.3% of the vote?
What?
I wonder who voted for him.
The David Eckstein vote is really funny.
Well, yeah, David Eckstein. When I saw that ballot come into my inbox, I'm like, okay. So, Justin, you can give him hell for this. PJ was the one that voted David Eckstein, one of our non-department members.
I'll take care of that one. For those who don't know, PJ and I do our own podcast together. It's called Sore Losers. You guys can check us out. We post it about every Wednesday to Thursday.
Justin with the plug.
Solid.
I couldn't resist. He set me up.
But at the end of this, I want to thank everyone who participated in this. And this was, I mean, it was fun seeing what everybody else's different opinions and views of the game, of the different votes that came in, and trying to come up with and try to see their reasoning as I jotted down all these votes and just saw them come up. Other than Michael Tipton, who voted Sosa out of pure spitefulness against me. But it was, I mean, this is a really fun experiment to do with the group, and I look forward to doing it next year with a group that is headlined by Manny Ramirez to see how everybody feels about Manny being Manny.
Yeah, and when's that article going up, Zach?
I'll have that up here in the next probably hour and a half.
Cool. You guys should check it out.
It's kind of harder to find images that aren't AP and Getty with some of the older players.
So nobody can give me crap from a Mike Sweeney vote?
Oh, you're the wait.
I say he's a Royals fan.
Why?
I just threw him at the bottom, just for fun.
Okay.
I really didn't think he should be in the Hall of Fame, but he was one of the guys that, I mean, he was the only guy that if you went to watch a Royals game through the 90s and early 2000s, he was the only guy you went to watch. He was pretty much the staple of the Royals, and after he left Oakland, and I just thought he should get some recognition for what he did, but no, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. Royals Hall of Famer, but not a baseball Hall of Famer.
Not too shabby career, 297 average, so he's got that going for him.
Yeah, he had a good career, over 300 home runs as well, but I mean, was never brought up in any PED talks, anything like that. So I thought that Mike Sweeney just wanted to get him some recognition. So here we go.
Last thing about the Hall of Fame voting, and then we'll head.
I was just saying. Also, I don't think I introduced myself at the beginning. I'm Eric Nifong, and I cover the 2015 World Series champion Kansas City Royals.
Oh, give the Royals their due, everybody.
That's not the Royals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
yeah,
about-
all right.
Hey, I had to listen to you call him a fluke all season. All season.
I just did that to get under your skin.
I was hoping after they had a great 3 games against each other in the regular season. I was hoping and praying for a Cubs Royals World Series because there's not many times you can watch a 0-0 extra innings game and actually like be glued to the TV. But one fun fact, and it's a pretty cool fact, and we'll head on to the next topic unless anybody wants to add anything else to the Hall of Fame. Our 36.8% for Bonds is the exact same amount that he received last year, 36.8%.
Interesting.
So we can be Hall of Fame voters. That's what you're saying.
Isn't it 10 years of baseball writing and you're in the WWA?
Some should not be allowed. They should disbar a lot of them. Dan Levitard lost his vote last year, the year before last, for selling it to Deadspin, and Deadspin allowed their fans to vote for who should be in the ballot.
Wow.
He lost his vote, by the way.
I would hope so. If anything tells you about fan voting, I mean, Omar Infante almost made the All-Star game, so don't leave that up to the fans.
Yeah.
All right.
World Series champion Omar Infante.
Bench riding Omar Infante.
Yeah.
But I guess that wraps up our Hall of Fame voting, does it, Zach?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I guess we should move on to our next segment here. We're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on in the off season, and basically just kind of go through and who you guys thought was the biggest winner and the biggest loser so far of the off season. And I guess we'll just go ahead and start with Dan.
All right, sweet. Well, I love what the Philadelphia Phillies have done so far in the offseason. We are in a rebuilding stage, and they've been able to trade away some players while also picking up some valuable assets. So I really like the direction that they're headed. I'm looking forward to the season with a lot of young talent. They won't be playoff bound for at least, but they're definitely moving in the right direction after going through turmoil with ridiculously big contracts. What I'm looking forward to seeing is where Hayward goes. Hayward and Cespedes. Those are the 2 guys that I care about the most. I want to see where they land. I don't know where. At this point in time, it's really a free-for-all, but it'll be interesting.
I don't like the Phillies getting rid of Giles. That's just...
I can bring that up. 100 Miles Giles was a great pitcher, and he's going to be a really good pitcher. He was spectacular with the Phillies, but he isn't necessary for the rebuild. He's a young guy who, right now, they can sell high, and that's exactly what they did. Having a closer when you're rebuilding a team isn't necessary, so getting rid of him and picking up some valuable assets, we got Apel, the number 1 overall pick from last year or 2 years ago. He hasn't panned out well so far, but a change of scenery could be exactly what he needs. So it was hard to say goodbye to Giles because I did love him as a player, but I think it was a smart move. Anybody else want to take the reins?
Okay. So the Indians, my team, we made some weird moves. I kind of like getting Napoli, but my biggest worry is that he can only play well with Texas. Like we saw what he did in Boston, it was not very good at all. He's a career like 250 or 350 plus against lefties in Texas, and like 270 everywhere else, which isn't bad, but it's not as good as it should be. But he said today that he's really excited to work with the Indians hitting coach Ty Van Berkelio, who they were together back in the Angels organization back in the day. So hopefully that relationship can do some good for us. I'm glad they didn't trade away any of their pitchers. That makes me feel good. Pitching definitely wins in this league. We've seen that with what the Royals are doing, what the Mets did. So hopefully they can find some good offense from in-house to fill all their holes. But we'll see. We'll see in time. It's a process. It's a process.
Yeah, they wanted Duffy and Panic for Carrasco.
Yeah.
I can't blame him for asking a lot because of how pitching's at a premium. As you just saw, the Mets just basically ride a young pitching staff to the World Series. So I mean, I knew I didn't want to see Soler get traded to Cleveland, even though Justin was all ready to go buy a Soler home and away jersey if it would have been if the day that would have happened. But I mean, I think they're going to. If Terry Francona said it, he'd much rather have pitching and then just try to get by on offense. So.
Are they? Hey Justin, are they AL Central favorites again next year?
Obviously not with the World Series champs here.
Just wanted to make sure.
I'll just jump in real quick again and say when I talk about Cespedes and Hayward, obviously Hayward has been signed, but when I said where they will land, it's sort of meaning, well, Cespedes, where will he land? But then Hayward, how will he be able to fit in, and will he be able to be effective with the Cubs? That's what I'm really curious to watch and see.
I think Hayward's going to have best year of his career next year, getting to hit around all those young studs.
That's a scary, scary team.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Cubs, you want to take this, Zach?
Yeah, I was gonna say perfect lead-in. God, it's been a long time since I could be excited about an off season. Last year was a great off season because I was glued to the hot stove and winter meetings when they signed Lester. This year, it seemed like it just couldn't get any better. I mean, I'm not a fan of the John Lackey deal. I honestly believe Lackey is going to regress. I don't know if he's going to do well pitching in Wrigley, but the Ben Zobrist signing is huge. It broke my heart a bit to see Castro get traded to the Yankees as a result of it, but I don't think he was ever in Theo and Hoyer's future plans. I tried my hardest not to get excited over this, but I love the Hayward signing. I think he's going to do great in center field, even though he's a natural right fielder. He loves playing in Wrigley, and the fact that there's something special going on in the north side of Chicago that all four of the signings they've done, including Trevor Cahill coming back, all these guys took less money than what was on the table for them to come to Chicago. I'm trying not to get my hopes up too high because the last time I did was after 2003 when Sports Illustrated plastered Wood and Pryor on the cover as saying World Series champions in 2004. So try to keep it at a medium pace, but I think the Cubs are on a right path. I'd love to see them get one more pitcher that might be on the cheap. Maybe if they can get a guy at a minor league deal like a Tim Lincecum who's trying to rebuild their value, or maybe possibly see if they can get Cliff Lee to come in as a low-risk, high-reward signing.
Do you think there's any chance that the Cubs can end up being the third best team in baseball and the third best team in the National League Central again this year? That's what scares me a little bit.
I mean, it not with what the Pirates. I mean, I'm sorry, what the lack of what the Pirates have done so far. The Pirates have a great core, but I feel like I'm waiting to see what St. Louis does, because that St. Louis, with all this TV money they got, they're lurking, and they feel like the jilted ex-lover who's basically watching Lackey and Hayward leave. I mean, I'll go ahead and say it, and I know Eric's going to hate me for it. I think Alex Gordon ends up in a St. Louis Cardinal jersey. I think money will talk at the end of the day, and just even though it's going to a hated rival, it's something that he's familiar with, and I think him going to left field and possibly Holiday maybe going to first for a time, that to me would make St. Louis the favorite in that division still. So I think they'll be the second best team in the National League. I still say St. Louis is the favorite.
That's disgusting, Zach.
It is. I threw up a little bit in my mouth saying it. Anytime I talk positive about the Cardinals, it makes me sick a bit.
No, go back to what you said about Lester. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I don't think the Cardinals are gonna have to go out and make a big move. I mean, it's what they're known not to do, and they still succeed. I mean, I don't know why they need another outfielder at this point. They have a bunch of them. Matt Holliday, Tommy Pham, Scott. Or I'm sorry. Just totally lost his name.
Piscotty.
Yes,
Piscotty.
Piscotty, and I think they're well off right now in the outfield, and they also have a guy who is going to actually. I watched him last year play for the Springfield Cardinals here, the AA affiliate. He'll be out AAA next year. He's 23-year-old center fielder Charlie Tilson, one of the fastest guys in minor league baseball, one of the best gloves in minor league baseball, and he hits the ball around 305, 310. So that's just another outfielder to add to that plethora, and I think the Cardinals are going to be fine in that aspect, but their pitching concerns me.
Yeah, going back to what you said about Lackey, he doesn't have to be the same player. He can easily regress, but still be successful. Like he'll probably be the third or fourth starter on that team with Arrieta and Lester. So his regression can be fine. They could succeed still with a little bit of a regression.
I think what will help. I mean, that's true. I mean, as long as he can eat the innings like he usually does to save that bullpen down the stretch, because I mean, Hendricks is still unproven, and Jason Hamill, it's Jekyll and Hyde with him. I mean, 2 straight years now, great first half, god awful second half to the point that I was ready. I mean, there was a lot of things yelled and thrown at the TV that when Hamill was on the mound. So that's the only thing that concerns me about the Cubs is the pitching depth, unproven Kyle Hendricks and Jason Hamill, but all you need is, I mean, just if they can build a stellar bullpen, I would be happy. I mean, because that seems to be the formula of success now in baseball.
I'll still trade you Wade Davis for Jorge Soler.
It's very tempting. That's good thing we're not general managers, because I'd probably want to make that trade because I love Soler. I just think that he's going to be a career 240 hitter who can put the homers on the board, but the Cubs, that's the one thing they lack right now is guys who can get on base and guys who can actually hit with runners in scoring position. As we saw in that NLCS, they just, once they get guys on, they really can't move them around. But speaking of Wade Davis, Eric, why don't you, talking about great bullpens, why don't you go to the Royals and what they've done so far this offseason?
Yeah, basically, they haven't done too much. Ben Zobrist is gone. It was kind of figured that was going to happen. They just weren't going to be able to match any money for Zobrist, and can't really blame him. I mean, he's 34 years old. Who knows when he's going to start regressing? Players don't just continue to keep getting better as they get older. So I kind of like that move, and they have some options. Omar Infante will probably get the start at the beginning of the season, but I'd watch out for Raul Mondesi getting that call up and filling in that second base spot. And eventually, who knows if Eski has to leave, he can move over to shortstop, but that's a little in the future. But the Royals added starting pitching. Something they've been doing the last couple years is adding guys that have once had really good seasons and kind of injuries have derailed them. A guy like Dylan G, they signed him to a minor league contract. He had a pretty good season in 2009, I believe it was, with the New York Mets. And who knows what can happen there? I mean, they've been doing it with Chris Medlin and Wade Davis and just some guys like that. And yeah, the biggest question mark right now is Alex Gordon going to return? I kind of, the way this thing's going right now, as long as this thing's going right now, I really think that he's going to come back. It's giving me more hope just because I really think that his heart's in Kansas City. He doesn't want to really leave, but he wants to get paid more than what the Royals are offering him right now. So it's kind of just them battling over money right now. And I hope that Alex Gordon will eventually come back. He should be a Royal lifer, and he looks really good in left field out there. And I'd hate to see him play somewhere else in left field. And they also added to that bullpen, Joaquin Soria coming back to Kansas City. That's why one of the reasons why I say that offer to you, Zach, would not be very bad for the Royals, because they could always just put Kelvin Herrera as the closer, Joaquin Soria in the 8th, and Luke Hochaver in the 7th, and that bullpen would still be really strong. And I think that they need some outfield help right now, clearly. But if Alex Gordon doesn't return, then they're going to have to go after a guy like Gerardo Parra or another guy. and I also think they still need to add a starting pitcher. Giovanni Gallardo is my top guy right now, but there's also some other guys like you mentioned earlier. Cliff Lee would be nice fill-in, a low-risk, high-reward guy. Him and Giovanni Gallardo, I think, are two of the guys that they're really looking at right now to fill that starting pitching.
What worries me about Kansas City is I don't know if the rumors have been prevalent recently, but that I know they were tied to Y.N. Chen from Baltimore, and then seeing what his asking price was, good Lord. Kansas City I know a lot of you guys don't like it. I love watching Kansas City play.
I like it.
And they and the thing is, I think if they lose Gordon, it wouldn't be the end of the world, because with Moustakas and Hosmer and Salvador Perez, they have a great core. And Ned Yost is one of the few managers in baseball people don't give enough credit. He's got the balls to do things that no other manager would do in those certain situations.
Speaking of Ned Yost, did you know that he's still ranked as a top 5 or bottom 5 manager in the league by some baseball writers?
That's why they play the game.
Right. He looks pretty good with that ring on, though.
As we hear the groans in the background. Oh, man. I just want to not backtrack too much, but I do want to bring up, looking through this from Buster Olney, Cleveland, the Indians, are interested in bringing in Juan Uribe to play third base. So.
I like it. Good vet presence.
That's a little fat man that can play baseball still. So hey, go ahead. I like Uribe. So
call him the Coke can.
So I can talk about the Red Sox now.
Yeah, go ahead. You got the biggest offseason acquisition so far.
Yeah, starting off with that, if there's one thing the Red Sox wanted to do is get an ace pitcher, and they got the ace of the free agent deck. It's going to be pretty fun as a Boston fan to see what he can bring to it. Already's clicking from what I've seen through Twitter and things with the teammates. But one thing that this concerned me with the Crawford signing as well is this guy's kind of never been in a big spotlight like Boston. Detroit was consistent. Toronto was good for those 2 months, but he's going to have that Boston every time on you pressure, and I hope he doesn't crumble like Crawford did. That would be another sore cut in the pocketbook for them. And then the next thing he wanted to do really was beef up the bullpen. Where they get that? They traded for the best one in the game. What's his name? Falling short, guys.
Craig Kimbrell.
Yeah,
Kimbrell.
Yeah.
Kimbrell. Yeah.
Despite the money they brought him in, they re-signed Yui Hard if he can stay healthy. So it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. One thing I'm really excited for is the growth of Eduardo Rodriguez. The dude came on pretty strong. More he pitched in the majors last year, so it's going to be interesting to see what his progression looks like in year 2. He was more or less the ace of the staff last year and held his own. You all think so?
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, and watching him, I actually ended up trading him off my fantasy baseball team because I needed help when he was still coming up. But when he's off, he's going to be off a bit. He's going to be wild and hard to watch. But he has the potential to be, I agree with Kurt Schilling because he talks about this a lot, a really, really good number 2 pitcher in the league. Or number 2 pitcher on the team, I'm sorry. So thoughts on final year for Ortiz? Anybody out there want to chime in on that?
It's probably going to be one of the hardest ways to replace. It's going to be one of the hardest spots to replace on that team because not only the offense he provides, but you got to look at David Ortiz. It's probably one of the best clubhouse guys in baseball in the last name as many years as you want. It's going to suck seeing Ortiz go. That's one of those things that even when Boston has struggled the last few years, I mean, just seeing him at the plate to see what he can do with a baseball is just unreal.
Absolutely. In every situation, too. Iconic moments in Red Sox history. He's there at the face of a lot of them.
I have to say, I hate farewell tours. They are so annoying.
You can
God,
thank
just go to
Derek
every
Jeter.
stadium, get all these useless gifts.
Thank Derek Jeter for that one. I think we're going to be seeing that a lot now.
I do have to admit though, the best one was Mariano Rivera getting a broken bat rocking chair. That was hilarious.
Oh yeah, that was good.
I would take a lot of pride in that gift. Like, that's cool too.
I think Boston is one move away from contending with Toronto at the top of that division. I know the offense is here and there, but I mean, if they could, when they were looking at it earlier in the offseason, maybe making a trade to get another pitcher before the David Price deal happened, I think Boston gets another solid 2 and let Rodriguez grow in the middle of that rotation. That is a scary team to face because of the way.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
No, I agree. I think that, or I really thought that the Red Sox were going to dangle one of the plethora of outfielders that they had and get Jose Fernandez away from the Marlins. Because there was that time where the Marlins filled in with rumors that he could be traded, and it was. I think they actually referred to it as a private team or a secret team that they're not willing to disclose. I really thought that was Boston going after him. It would have made the rotation incredible at the top half.
Hey Matt, does David Price's postseason record concern you at all?
Yeah, it does. It's kind of similar to how LeBron approached the decision in a way, talking about how great we're going to be. Oh, I'll get all my wins in the postseason and then the championships. That makes me a little nervous because his record is terrible, and can't do that in Boston.
Yeah, I agree. That was one of the biggest things that Royals fans got to really hold on to had to hold on to last year when they were facing Toronto was hopefully that David Price showed up and not the dominant David Price. Because I think if the dominant David Price showed up in that series, it could have been a little different.
Would have been nice.
Nah.
The one thing that would be a lookout for David Price in his first season is the way Matt brought it up, and everybody else knows, he's never been booed before by a home crowd. What happens if he comes out struggling and how he reacts to it will be the first sign of how this is going to go, because if he can handle it, that's great for Boston. They need it, and I want to see David Price succeed, but I hope that he's got the thick enough skin. He's also a great follow on Twitter too. But hopefully he's got thick enough skin to survive that Boston media and a die-hard fan base that he's never been on a team before where it's always butts in the seats, no matter if they're bad or not. Whereas in Tampa, they could have been a 120-win team, and there's only 5,000 people in that crap stadium.
Yeah, the media's been well to him so far. I saw one of his first press conferences. One of the reporters who used to hate him when he was a part of Tampa Bay asked him to sleep, if they would live together for a little bit. So things are getting better for them. And plus, Price has one of the best. He has a ERA around 2 in Fenway Park, so that works for him.
So if Price does struggle, does he get traded to the Yankees? Just make that AL East round out, and then Baltimore? Got to hit them all 5?
I'm down for that.
All right, well, I guess we should talk a little bit about the team. It's probably their year. It's an even year, so talk about those Giants.
Okay. So they started the offseason kind of slow, waiting for the Greinke market to kind of develop. And for a while there, it looked like that they were actually going to sign him, but it was just a matter of would he take more money or more years between them and the Dodgers. And then I remember that terrible, I think it was Friday, that he signed with the Diamondbacks after like 2 hours after them popping up in the discussion, and I was kind of annoyed because they needed a pitcher and I wanted either of them, and then I think it was the next day that they got Samardzija for the 5-year, $90 million, which after the horrible year that he had with Chicago wasn't an awful deal, and it was better than any option that they had, whether it be Heston or Kane or anyone else. And then after they signed Cueto was really just amazing because now you can argue this with me, but I think they have the best rotation in baseball now. Bumgarner, Cueto, Samardzija. Justin, you don't agree?
Samardzija stinks.
He had that 2.99 ERA in Oakland, and that's just across the bay. So
It was
To be fair for Samardzija, I mean, the U.S. Cellular Field is a it's a hitter's park.
yeah,
Tell that to Chris Hale.
That's true, but I mean,
yeah.
I love the move for the Giants getting Samardzija because Samardzija is a 3. In Chicago, he was a 1 when he shouldn't have been a 1. Oakland, he was going to have to be a 2 there at the time when he was there for half the season. The White Sox brought him in to be a 2 behind Sale. He's not a 1 or a 2. He's got great stuff. He's going to give you 200 innings. He struggled this year, but he did 214 innings. 2013 with Chicago, 213.2 with the Cubs. Between Oakland and Chicago in 2014, 219.2. I really like Samardzija. I kind of miss him in Wrigley, but I think it's a great move for San Francisco, especially how big that outfield is and how pitcher-friendly it can be. I think Samardzija, having the pressure of being the guy in the middle of the rotation, can do wonders for him.
Speaking of outfield for the Giants, they really need another outfielder because they cannot roll with Gregor Blanco, Angel Pagan, and Hunter Pence for 162 games. And I wrote an article about it a while back, and I do think that they're going to go homegrown. They're going to pick someone. They're going to take someone from the minors, and he'll be fine. But I did include Alex Gordon in that because I think he would be perfect in San Francisco because he covers a lot of ground, and he can hit some home runs, but it's kind of hard in AT&T with the Levi's Landing and Triples Alley. But I think he's just kind of the perfect outfielder for the Giants, and I know Eric doesn't like that, but
No, not at all.
And then what Zach was saying about eating innings, they definitely need that because their bullpen it's not very good. Strickland had a decent year, and then I think Romo's leaving, and Affeld's gone, so they're rolling with Casilla, Strickland, and Javier Lopez, and that is not stellar. So
It's no HHW, is it?
it is not.
Plus, Alex Gordon can't go there. You guys broke his heart in 2014.
Well, it's fine after 2015. It's okay.
Should have 2, though.
It's not blame Salvador Perez for that, or blame Madison Bumgarner at one of the best postseason performances.
Can't really blame anyone. Just bow to Mad Bum.
Think it's time for the team across the bay. You can take it, Jesus.
I've been waiting for my time to shine. Right. So obviously the A's had such an atrocious bullpen last year, and that's what prior to the All-Star break, we know that was something now general manager David Force was going to have to go after for, and that's exactly what he did. Traded Jesse Chavez, which I think we won that trade by a lot. Chavez is a really inconsistent pitcher. In return, we got Liam Hendricks from the Blue Jays, which he's not necessarily one of the top guys in the league, but he's the guy that's going to be able to get you out of some situations, kill a couple of innings for you when you're doing that blowout game. And then another trade that we did regarding the bullpen was when we traded Drew Pomeranz, a guy that was inconsistent, much like Chavez, except this time he was left-handed. getting Mark Grzymski and Yonder Alonso. I mean, Alonso's just there. Cool. I mean, he's a really good platoon guy, but I think what we won the most out of it was getting Mark Grzymski. And then obviously, keep on going with the bullpens. When we signed Ryan Matson, that 2-year deal, he's proved to be one of the better closers in the game. And then obviously getting John Axford, which is for a 2-year, $10 million contract, which is, we saw what he was with the Brewers. Didn't have such a good year in Colorado, but then again, when you're a pitcher in Colorado, that really doesn't help out a lot. And obviously now, hopefully that, Sean Doolittle comes back to the pitcher he originally was, throwing at 96, 97 miles per hour, not when he came back this year where he was barely reaching at 90 miles per hour.
I want to know with Oakland is how much longer does Billy Beane hold on to Sonny Gray before he turns Sonny Gray into a piece that can restock some of his farm system even more?
Well, that's what I was also kind of hoping for this season, but obviously that's never going to happen with the Oakland A's. It's either giving an extension, most preferably to Sonny Gray, or if not, Josh Reddick. But obviously, I'm also counting down the days on my calendar. When is Sonny Gray gonna get traded? I try not to get it to attach to any of these players, so that's pretty hard for me.
I like Jesus. Philly fans and Oakland fans can ride the same boat this year.
Yeah, I recently got my Gold A's jersey that I didn't have a name on for like 4 or 5 years. I recently got Doolittle's name. Not sure if that was a mistake or not.
Yeah, always risky. You never know who they're going to get rid of when you're rebuilding.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not in that boat anymore.
I don't know. It is exciting. Even though going back when the Cubs sucked, even then when you get some of those call-ups, that's really exciting, even though you're out of it. But it's a great time to watch, and I think the Phillies will definitely rebound. In Oakland, it's Billy Beane. He'll turn nothing into something and have the A's competing again.
Maybe it'll help turn the Browns good, Justin.
Yeah, it's really weird having the like the state of the Indians when they're not fully rebuilding, but they're not doing a lot to make their team super good. So they're kind of in a weird flux period. Hopefully they figure it out soon. Just wait on their young talent to get out of the minors and ready to play in the big leagues.
Sports Illustrated World Series champs.
The curse, the jinx.
All right. Well, does that pretty much do it?
Think so.
All right. Well, I guess we plan on having a show every week as often as we can. Just kind of vary on who's in here and what teams are being covered. So we hope you guys stay tuned and listen.